So, this is the story about how I learned to cook. I was spending the summer with my grandparents because my parents had to go out of town for work. They always tell me stories about how amazing I was when I was little, how much they missed me, and then we would eat Triscuits together and drink warm milk until it was time for bed. One day, I went exploring in my grandparents' house and found my great-grandmother's old recipe book. It was covered with flour, sugar, sprinkles, and a whole lot of love. I opened it, and some of the recipes floated right out. What? The living room looked just like the picture on the recipe. I read the instructions and followed them exactly. I gathered all the ingredients, did all the measurements, and everything was going well. But when I turned the knob on the oven, it didn't make the sound. Oh no, can't turn on the oven? Not to worry. Grandpa came and saved the day by turning it on for me. The timer dinged and I took the cake out of the oven. Yummy. I couldn't wait for it to cool down so I could try it. But Grandma said we should let it cool down first. So, I sat down at the table and waited impatiently. And while I was waiting, I started looking through the recipe book again. Some more recipes flew out. Ooh, I want to make one with these. This one looked easy enough. I just had to mix flour and water together and then pour in some sugar. While I was pouring the sugar, it started sprinkling around me. Wow. Then I saw the next step. Beat 3 eggs in a bowl. I broke the eggs and poured them in. The cake batter started jumping up and down. Oops. I tried to get it back in the bowl, but the batter jumped out and splattered all over the floor. Yikes. How was I going to clean that up? Luckily, the recipe book solved my problem. Next step, add a pinch of salt. Suddenly, a tiny vacuum cleaner zoomed out and cleaned the floor in seconds. That's one way to make a recipe come to life. But now it was time to focus on my very first recipe. I carefully put the slices of apple in the pan, sprinkled cinnamon on top, and poured the batter on it. Now, I just had to wait for it to finish baking. This was so fun, but I was also hungry. So I opened the fridge to see if there were any snacks, but all I saw was a big bowl full of batter. Maybe I could try making something else. I grabbed the bag of flour and dumped it on the counter. I grabbed the bag of sugar and dumped it on the counter. The flour and sugar mixed together and started dancing around the kitchen. Haha, I loved seeing the recipes come to life. Then I remembered the cake I left in the oven. I opened the door, but it wasn't there. Did I forget to turn off the oven? No, it was still cold. Where did the cake go? The cake came barreling out of the oven, chasing us around the kitchen. Oh, he ran over my Lego, tripped over the chair, and fell into the sink. Now he was covered with dirty dishes. The cake was crying. Oh no, don't cry, let me help you. As soon as I touched him, he stopped crying and said, "Thank you for saving me, but please don't try to eat me. I'm alive." The cake ran out of the kitchen, down the hallway, and hid under a blanket on the couch. There, he was safe. But now what? He was scared to go back in the kitchen, and I was scared to let him go. So I asked him, "How can we fix this?" The cake thought for a moment. Well, I know my creator has the power to reverse whatever spell she casts. We just need to find her. Who was our creator? My grandma. She knew all kinds of spells. Maybe she could help us. He climbed onto my shoulder and we went to find her. We found her in the living room playing a board game with Grandpa. "Grandma, I need your help. I accidentally brought this cake to life and now he's afraid to go back into the kitchen." "Oh, don't worry," she said, winking at me. "Your great-grandmother's cookbook has the power to undo anything that happens. It's called the antidote. But where is it?" I looked all over the house, but it was nowhere to be found. Then I checked behind the curtains, and there it was. The recipe book hid really well. We rushed back to the kitchen. The cake was still hiding on the couch. I showed him the book, and he immediately perked up. He hopped off the couch and said, "Let's go." I opened the book and started flipping through it quickly. I didn't see anything that looked familiar until I came across this recipe. This was the recipe I used to make the cake. I read it, and it said, "After the cake is done baking, let it cool before eating." I never did let it cool down. That's why it came to life. But now I needed to figure out how to reverse it. Then I remembered what Grandma told me once. When you make a mistake, always try to do the opposite. So if the recipe told me to let it cool, I should do the exact opposite, make it hot. I turned the oven on and put the cake in. I closed the door and crossed my fingers. Would this work? The cake started to shrink. Yay! He was getting smaller and smaller until he was just the size of a cupcake. Now I just had to wait for the antidote to take full effect. It was quite a wait, but finally he broke free of the glass case and said, "I'm free." Then he disappeared. I opened the oven and found a perfectly delicious-looking cake. It smelled so good. I carefully put it on a cooling rack and took it out of the kitchen. Grandma, Grandpa, and I sat at the table and ate the whole cake. It was soft and fluffy and tasted like pure sunshine. It was the best cake ever. After we finished eating, we all went back into the kitchen. The antidote was closed, the cake was gone, and the kitchen was filled with flour, eggs, sugar, and a whole lot of love. And suddenly I heard the recipe book hum. I opened it, and all the recipes were back inside. The cake recipe was gone. That meant the cake was too. I was sad that he was gone, but happy that he was free. I knew that if I ever needed him, I could just make another cake. That's how I learned to cook. The end.